Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Tuesday Mortgage Coach interview. I am Dave Savage. Every Tuesday, 9 o'clock Pacific, for over a decade, I interview someone amazing. And often that is a top producer in the mortgage business. By the way, we are going to be launching the Modern Mortgage Summit today on social media. And it's just a lot of top producers that have today done over $100 million in volume, and they're modern. And to me, what it means to be modern is, yes, you leverage technology, but probably more important than that, you're a great leader. You're a purpose-driven, why-driven human being that knows how to learn new tools and knows how to use technology to serve families. So that makes today's interview with Joe Musselman super exciting and super on point. Welcome to the Mortgage Coach community, Joe.
I'm very glad to be here. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks. Well, thank you for your service. For anyone who knows who Joe is, you can Google him. We're going to put a link to his LinkedIn profile. And while he tells his story, we're going to put a link to some other places that are just important to his past. But guys, this is a man who served America at the highest level. And after his time in the services, he didn't stop serving. He then, Joe, how long was it that you were full-time dedicated to the Honor Foundation?
Yeah, so the story begins a long time ago, actually. If you must know, the first experience that I had with the military was just growing up. I had 16 members of my family. We're all members of the United States military across almost every branch, from my grandfather, my poppy, from when I was a child, who kicked open the door after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor and said, "Let's go." Him and his brother immediately enlisted and joined the Marine Corps, all the way through the members to the present day, serving in the most recent Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom. So it's a long tradition in my family, to say the least.
So it sounds like it's not just think you, it's think your family, because it's families like yours that make America great and safe. So that's amazing. So guys, you're going to hear a story of his why. Why did he get into Special Forces and become a Navy SEAL? Why did he continue to serve and help place elite Special Forces operators after he got out? And then why today he's a successful, not just entrepreneur, but a VC, a funder of entrepreneurs, keynote speaker, just amazing human being. We had a 30-minute prep call scheduled, and we spent 90 minutes, and it could have gone on for a day. So I also feel like I'm making a new friend here. So Joe, can't wait to hear your story. You know who our audience is. It's elite performing loan officers and want to be elite performing loan officers. So you tell me where you want to start the story. You want to start all the way back with
of course.
Why you got into the Special Forces?
Yeah, let's talk about this. So first off, I'm really proud to be here, and I'm honored to be here. And Dave, thank you. My why statement is pretty simple. It's to light fires so others may see. And I think what you're doing with your community is you're lighting fires. So a lot of this talk is around, the military background of my family and the servant leaders in my family, both men and women, and into my service. But first of all, you're a patriot, Dave. You are, because to me, the greatest Americans are the people who create a sense of community. This country was built off of community. And I know, and also unrealistic expectations. You had a very unrealistic expectation many years ago to say, you know what, I want to create a community of high performers, and I want thousands of them to know each other and to love each other in the work that they do together. And that was unrealistic, and you made it happen. So I'm proud to be here. You're a patriot. And secondly,
for that.
Of course, it's the truth. And your audience needs to know as well, you're patriots as well. Why? Because, well, you're helping people achieve the American dream in the greatest sense of the word. I had a call with my loan officer before this call yesterday. And as I walked downstairs, my morning routine and going through the day, I wouldn't have the hallway that I have to watch my little newborn son, who's about to turn 1. He wouldn't have the hallway to crawl down if it wasn't for my loan officer. He was able to pull all types of magic behind the scenes and being communicated with me and my wife and my family. He knew that we were expecting a new baby, and he worked his ass off for us. We would not be in this house 100% if it was not for our loan officer. So I think what you all are doing is also extremely patriotic. You are working with Americans to help them find their next great adventure, which in most cases is in fact their home, where they will make all the memories that they will have for the rest of their life. So when I think about purpose-driven people, this is a community that I'm very proud to be a part of. And one last thing on the high performers on the call, I made a very distinct pivot in my life when it came to mindset to think about if 100% of my happiness and fulfillment in life is going to result from only two decisions. The first one being who we choose to spend the rest of our life with, and the second one being who we choose to work with. I want to work with high performers, full period, and stop, no questions. One of the biggest reasons why I wanted to go in and work to become a Navy SEAL, and we'll get into the whole story. I did not make it through training because of a spine injury, but we'll get to that. It's a big part of the pivot that I'm talking about. But I knew that I wanted to leave one high performing community and work with another. That led me to venture capital. All of you on this call do not need to be here. You all could be doing something else with your time, but you're not. You're one of the peers and colleagues that decides to have a top mentality around your own performance and be here to show up, and showing up is a big part of it. So I'm with high performers this morning. I'm with patriots this morning. You all are helping people achieve the American dream. This is a big deal to me. It's a big deal to my posterity. And I want you all to know that I'm proud to be here amongst a community that's helping folks achieve not only just the American dream, but this country was built off of people buying homes. Literally, it's the American dream to own a home in this country, and you're doing that. So I want to say thank you to everyone that's out there working for American families alike.
So, and I want to remind everybody listening to this, there are loan officers that go the extra mile. When we had the prep call and I talked about, who's your loan officer? I mean, he went on with the advice, the value, the wisdom, to where that loan officer was not a transactional loan officer that I can get you this rate, I can close on time, and I can solve problems. This loan officer became an advisor, like part of Joe's wealth team. And so I just want to push everybody. Are you the captain of a wealth team? Are you helping a family beyond the transaction to become more fiscally literate and to get a better mortgage decision? Are you giving people a fee worksheet? Are you giving people, hey, here's some options. Here's some strategies. Here's some ways of paying off your mortgage faster and becoming debt-free faster. Or here's some ways to invest that money so that paying off your home is a strategic financial planning decision. So I just want to push you guys, as you heard that, you can be an app-taking transactional loan officer. And guys, you're still a patriot. You're helping people with the American dream. But there is a bigger role that can be played here. So Joe, so let's get into that story. Yeah. One last thing, remember guys, this is a mastermind. If you have questions, whether you're watching this live in Facebook, put your questions in comments or takeaways in comments. And if you're watching this in YouTube, it's been recorded, questions will get answered and takeaways are appreciated. So Joe, let's get into your why.
Sure.
You came from a family, but you didn't just get in the military your typical way.
Yeah, I did not. So thank you. And my loan officer will actually be at my house tonight for a debate watch party. So he's very close. He's very close to me.
He's a good friend.
He's a good man, and I'll bring him up as a part of the story. His name is Dan Williams. He's out here in San Diego. So where to begin? So first off, I did a civilian deployment, meaning I was doing some work on my senior thesis at DePaul University in Chicago, and I kept losing in debates, but not because I was bad at debating. I was losing because of statistics. And when you debate, people are statisticians. They bring up things from the past, from the new and the present. And I thought, well, what better way to win a debate than actually go to Iraq and Afghanistan to open up with sentences in college? Because I wasn't able to get out there and join the fight, I entered college in 2002, my freshman year, right after 9/11 had taken place, and finished my 4 years at DePaul University in my junior and senior year. I had the opportunity to go abroad. So I went to Iraq and Afghanistan, Yemen, parts of Kuwait, and it was a remarkable experience. But when I was there, that's when I met my very first Navy SEAL. Now I was already planning on joining the military. Like I said, my family has been in competition on which branch and what service for a very long time about where I would end up. It was never a matter of if, it was a matter of when and what branch and what service. And I met my first Navy SEAL when I was in Iraq. And basically, I was sold instantly. I wanted to be a part of that culture. The team, the way they communicated to each other, even casually, was a good fit for me. The leadership was talked about in such high regard. And I know that everyone on this call believes in a resonating theme that I'm going to talk a lot about today, which is TLC, teams, leadership, and culture. And so basically going abroad and recognizing the team, the leadership and culture of the SEAL community, I wanted that. I always wanted to be a part of the highest performing community in the military, which is exactly why I came back. I withdrew my OCS package, the officer package that I had submitted to become a United States Marine. My grandfather rolled in his grave subsequently, and then I walked down the hallway and I enlisted into the United States Navy. I didn't go officer, I went enlisted. The SEAL community, the enlisted operators are incredibly important. They do deployment after deployment. I wanted that grind, I wanted that work ethic. I wanted to be around people who believed in just constant flow of service. My uncle was currently serving abroad in Iraq. He was also a part of the inspiration, and all the members of my family before that. My father's named after his uncle that was serving in World War II that we didn't know he didn't know at the time whether he was gonna make it or not. So he was named Joe, and I'm named after my father. So there's a long lineage here of just prideful service in my family to this great country that we all live in. Well, you wanna make God laugh, you tell him about your plans, right? So the first chuckle was, I want to be a Navy SEAL on his behalf. And although I did everything right, I trained for 2.5 years to get into training. Then I was in training for 2.5 years before I suffered a spine injury, and it was brutal. It was so bad that neurological damage, all this stuff, I was pegged by the medical board to have a 98% chance of it reoccurring if I even attempted to go through training again. And with all those odds against me, I was medically retired from the United States Navy in 2012 and 2013. It was devastating. As you can imagine, I was all in. I burned the boats, right? There was no plan B, none, zero. It's like there's no fail. My girlfriend, who thought I was insane at the time, moved out to Coronado Island, where training happens. She graduated early from college. She must have not thought I was that crazy because she's taking care of my 1-year-old son in the kitchen. But at the time, I have to say, I was in a bad place, very dark times. It's hard to explain depression or a depressive state. Your body feels like it weighs 8 tons. You can't get out of bed. You don't know what to do. You feel lost. I didn't know who I was. I wasn't in control of my self-talk for the first time in my life, which is a strange place to be. And this is something I talk about a lot during COVID, which is when we were told to go to our rooms, essentially as adults with our families for around 90 days to 6 months throughout COVID, you went off by yourself. And what some people discovered is that when you go off by yourself, you realize that you're in bad company. And that's what happened to me when I was being basically forced out of a dream that I felt like I had failed. And I didn't like the company that I was in and around, meaning just myself. And we've all had those times. We've all been forced with those times where we ask ourselves a universal question. I guarantee you that every single person on this call, this is a 100% guarantee. I don't make these ever, but this is one I can guarantee, is that every single person on this call has asked themselves at some point in their life this one question, and it's only 2 words. What's next? Sometimes this is in relationships, it's in work, it's in business all the time. I mean, it's a flowing question throughout any given day. What's next? What's next? What's next? It could be said with conviction. It could be said with confidence. And then other times when we get faced with those really tough in-between moments in our lives, it could be faced with tears and vulnerability and lack of courage and fearfulness. And that's what I felt all at that time. I had no idea what was next. In that moment of transition is when I was presented with a very interesting relationship, which was a Navy SEAL who was a Master Chief. And for everyone listening, If you're unfamiliar with how the ranking system works in the Navy, a Master Chief is top of the food chain. They are the senior most enlisted personnel inside of the United States Navy, let alone inside of the Navy SEAL community. And to give you a summary of this person, we're talking 6 Bronze Stars, all with combat valor, was awarded multiple Silver Stars, which is basically elevated combat valor. He was a part of SEAL Team 6 for, the team that doesn't exist, but we all know it does, but it doesn't. He was a part of that for 90% of his career. It's one of those, oh, by the way, he had his master's degree in global business. He spoke French and Farsi. He could fly fixed winged aircraft and rotary. So basically he could fly helicopters and planes. If you're feeling bad about yourself and what you've done in life, I'll add something onto it. And oh, by the way, he was like a 7-time Ironman. He decided to parachute into the Kona World Championships, throw his parachute and his rig behind him, throw his fins behind him, and just start the race while tugging that ruck for the entire swim. So this is not a normal human being whatsoever. Let's just put it that way. All right. He was the iconic Navy SEAL. It's what we think about when we think of Navy SEALs. And we became very close friends. He invited me to his retirement ceremony. And this is an exceptional experience. If anyone ever has the opportunity to go and watch any military retirement ceremony, it's remarkable. It makes you feel a sense of pride to be an American, that there are these people out there serving us who don't know who we are. They don't know our names. They don't know what we do every day, but they're out there serving us on our behalf, knowing nothing about us. That's a remarkably humbling feeling. And so going to this retirement ceremony, if you can just walk with me right now onto this, it's called a grinder. It's this concrete slab where all Navy SEALs have to go through training on this slab of concrete. And on the concrete are these little duck feet where classes have to line up. There are these little fins that you have to stand on. The community is obviously known for fins, and it's what makes frogmen to be Navy SEALs. Anyways, I'm on this, this big concrete opening. It's filled with hundreds of people. It's a beautiful summer day. He's up there with his Navy whites and this big chest of medals. You can't even see his Navy SEAL trident because it's underneath his collar. And the confidence that I saw in him, oh my God, it was unbelievable to hear what he talked about. Forward thinking, diversity in the team, Silicon Valley and technology, and how we have to advance to defend ourselves and defeat our enemies through technology. It was just a remarkable speech. Taking photos afterwards like a straight up movie star. And he was a rock star. His family was there, his friends were there, his teammates were surrounding him. It was a joyful day. The very next day, he came into the office that I was working. He closed the door behind him and he looked at me and he said, Joe, 26 years in the SEAL teams, what am I going to do now? And he was crying. And he wasn't just crying, he was sobbing. So to go from fearless to fear-filled in a 24-hour period was shocking to me. I didn't exactly know how to handle that. It was an amazing thing to see basically a superhero the day before. And then he was super filled with fear about what's next for him and his family and everyone else. I could tell you this, that moment is when, if people talk about the founding moment of the Honor Foundation, that's when it happened, when I saw that Master Chief in tears, going from fearless to fear-filled in a matter of hours. And so basically, I started asking questions right away. Like Mother Teresa is one of my favorites to just read and look through memoirs. And she felt guilty and selfish for how good her service made other people feel. And it made her feel selfish because she was doing things that gave her so much joy. And she wasn't sure if she was supposed to be serving that way. I cast all of that onto the audience saying, I hope we're all as selfish as her in the way that she chose to serve the world. But she talked about not worrying about serving thousands of people, but she talked about serving the person right in front of you. And first off, that's very relevant to everyone in this audience, that when you're with someone, whether it's a client, a customer, is to be fully present and mindful of what they may be going through. Because right now, this Master Chief, we're all of these bundles of stories walking around, right? He was in front of me, and all I wanted to do and focus on was to help and support him. What do we need to do? Resume, LinkedIn. Now, mind you, we all know LinkedIn very well. creating a digital brand for yourself, being a Navy SEAL in SEAL Team 6 is not a high priority for our operators. I'm just letting everyone know that's not something that they really try to put out and get done while they're inside of the SEAL teams. So he was starting from scratch at 46 years old in regard to a digital presence. We worked our asses off for the next 90 days. And 90 days he was hired. He's still with that company. He found his next great adventure in life, but it was a lot of work. And then I became addicted to this process. I became addicted to the feeling of having relevance to support someone at this very, very sensitive time in their life, this in-between moment that we all have, the what's next moment that we all have. And I'm gonna flash forward through a bunch, I'm gonna yada yada over the best part for the Seinfeld fans out there. But here's what happened. My why is always inside of me, just as your why is always inside of you. We actually have it inside of us for the longest, from our earliest memories of our childhood to our present day. And my why statement is now very clear. It's to light fires so others may see. So apply it to that situation. I wanted to light a fire in this Master Chief. I wanted to light a fire so that he could see how much potential he had to basically go out and do what he had done again with a new renewed purpose. He wasn't retiring, he was refiring in every sense of the word. And I just needed to nudge him and give him a compass. Everyone on this call is here because they're inspired. Those that are inspired sometimes don't need inspiration, they just need a compass. And that's what I was able to provide the Master Chief. Flash forward 5 years from that moment, 2013 to basically 17, 18, 19, throughout that time period, I wanted to create the world's first transition institute for the US Navy SEAL and Special Operations community. That was my new purpose. The moment I helped one, I wanted to help more. The next 6 months, I did 215 interviews with Navy SEALs in 6 states, 7 states over the next 6 months. I went on a listening tour. I wanted to empathize with the community I meant to serve, to truly understand what was the barrier for them. Here's the thing. Everyone on this audience, no one ever asks, what happens to Olympians after they become Olympians? No one asks that question. No one ever asks, what happens to a Navy SEAL after they become a Navy SEAL? They don't just ride off into the sunset. They're 46 years old, and they have a 20-year executive life ahead of them. And they've been serving us at the highest level. They're the top 0.001% of our entire military. And they're the top 0.01% of warfighters around the world. So you don't get more elite than the folks coming out of this community. They're called special for a reason. They're special operators for a reason. So although I was injured and I didn't get to become a Navy SEAL, I was supposed to serve them. I wasn't supposed to be a SEAL. I was meant to serve SEALs. And I owned that new mission hard. So for the next 5 years, all I did was work towards this vision. And the mission of the Honor Foundation is to serve others with honor for life, so their next mission is clear and continues to impact the world. Now, it's that mission because that was my initial why. That was my why statement. I've since honed it down, chipped it down. I believe very much in succinct. When it comes to our own alignment, we have to know what we believe, and we have to know the words that resonate with our soul, and that takes a lot of work. So throughout my time at the Honor Foundation, I kept whittling down my why statement, and then upon my transition from CEO onto the board to launch my next great adventure in life, to light fires so others may see. That's exactly what I wanted to do. Over those 5 years, we raised tens of millions of dollars. We built a 10,000 plus support network across the country. We have 4 campuses across the country to include a virtual campus. We place our physical campuses right next to the special operations community so they don't have to wonder where is a safe place and a safe space for me to have these difficult conversations as I transition. I was laser focused. Laser focus is a personal value. Practicing artistry is a personal value. I wanted to do and represent the best I possibly could be because I had this entire community of 3,200 active duty Navy SEALs behind me, in addition to a community of 75,000 special operators across all branches relying on us to make this mission a reality. And in 5 to 6 years, we became the premier transition institute for US Navy SEALs and the United States Special Operations community. I can't tell you how many hundreds of employer partners that we have And to give you just two statistics that are very important, that will make a lot of you kind of head shake. The two statistics that are important. When I first did my research in 2013 and 2014, only 13% of Navy SEALs had jobs leaving their service. That's egregious. I mean, that is unbelievable to think that our highest military operators and top 0.01% of warfighters in the world, 13% have jobs. So that's the first statistic. The second statistic is officers and enlisted alike had a salary of around $88,000. Again, well underpaid, undervalued in the private sector. Now, flash forward, 98.7% of our graduates have jobs within 30 days of leaving their service. And the average salary of our fellows, that we call them, leaving our doors is around $147,000. We surpassed Harvard graduates, Princeton graduates, Yale MBAs many years ago. So apologies to the Ivy League folks out there, but sorry, I'm not sorry. These folks deserve this. They've worked their asses off and they'll never ask for help or support. And now the Honor Foundation is making this a reality for them. That's what led me into, believe it or not, being a non-profiteer is what led me into doing the exact same work as a VC now. So that might be a good time to maybe ask some questions or just take a pause. I get very passionate.
Or just applaud, you know, I mean, that, first of all, what an amazing story, what an amazing accomplishment, you know, thank you for your service, but wow, the way you served after your direct service is just mind blowing. I mean, what a special story. Guys, we put a link to honor.org down below. It's an incredible website. You should know about it. You should check it out.
And the team, if I could, Dave, one last thing, the team that we have working at the Honor Foundation is so remarkable. It's all about them. They have done unbelievable things. This is not mercenary work. This is missionary work. It's not a 9 to 5, it's a 5 to 9 for every single employee that we have. And to go from 0 to nearly 20 employees in less than 5 years has been remarkable. We've recruited some of the best people to focus on this mission. So huge shout out to the team and to our board of directors at honor.org.
So check it out. Along the right-hand side, there's donate, apply, volunteer, but give it recognition and support. So, you know, when preparing for this interview, we had our prep call. I checked you out on social media, and I just noticed that you have this superpower of being mission driven, and the way you document it on your websites. If you go to your JV website, phantom.jv, not phantom.com, phantom.jv,
yeah, Phantom
VC.
Yep.
We'll put a link down below, whether you're watching this in Facebook or YouTube. But you're just this mission first kind of guy. Sure. And then you not only do that, but you know, now that you have a for-profit business, you're not only mission centric, but you're using it to drive your cause. And that is something that I'm passionate about. We have a mission here at Mortgage Coach to change how people get into debt in America. And a lot of the best loan officers that are the best of the best, they have missions. Jeremy Forcier, one of the most elite loan professionals, you know, good people deserve great advice. And that means something to him. That's right. And that drives his behavior. It drives his work ethic. It drives his success. So now in this new venture, you know, what is some of your advice to loan officers listening to this? And they're like, wow, well, first of all, thank you. Amazing. But also what's your guidance to them to make their mission documented, personal?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So one thing, I can't talk about Fathom. So Fathom is a venture capital fund. We have operations in Boston, New York, Austin, Chicago, San Francisco, San Diego. I have 2 wonderful partners in the GP, and then we have just a sea of support. You know, we're raising tens of millions of dollars to focus on one thing and one thing alone, and that's leadership. And let me tell you how I came to this conclusion. When I did the 215 interviews of Navy SEALs across the country, they kept telling me a version of the exact same story. Joe, I want to be a part of a great team. I want to follow a great leader. And I want to be a part of a culture that's much bigger than ourselves. And it kept coming up, teams, leadership, culture, teams, leadership, culture. So I began to do interviews with Fortune 5. After I interviewed all those SEALs, I interviewed around 151 Fortune 500 CEOs, SPVs, AVPs, you name it. And I really started to ask and frame my questions, what the audience, what my customers and clients, audience, the SEAL community wanted to know. So I would ask CEOs about their teams. I would ask them about their leadership style. I would ask them how they choose leaders of the company. How would they define their culture? And I carried those interviews and those lessons into my own transition in 2019, where I interviewed 50 founders who were all venture backed up in Silicon Valley. And I interviewed about 50 VCs, half of which were on Forbes Minus list. I was sitting in front of around $88 billion of net worth over 1 year in 2019. And what they told me was exactly the same thing the SEAL community told me. And so this must be a high performing thing. So all of you on this call, whether you've been thinking it or not, because you're high performers, I can guarantee you that you care about teams, you care about leadership, and you care about culture. So I'm going to frame everything that I talk about through this lens of TLC. And here's how Fathom was founded and created. Founders opened up to me very quickly about their weaknesses, their vulnerabilities. And mainly it's because if I can sit down in front of 1,000+ special operators at this point, Navy SEALs, Green Berets, folks from the unit in the Army and Marine Raiders, and get them to open up quickly. Sitting in front of a 26-year-old founder of any technology company, we get vulnerable fast. I ask questions in the reverse order. It's like, hey, how are you doing? Typical American greeting and pleasantry. And then it's like, so tell me about an emotionally shaping story from your childhood between the ages of 0 and 10. And so you get to those questions quickly, because that's all that matters. We're all walking around, Dave, with these stories inside of us. And I want to dig deep. That's why we're called Fathom. Fathom is a unit of measurement. It's a sea term. It's a Navy term. Fathom, depths. I want to go deep. Everything that matters is beneath the surface. Everything that matters is beneath the surface. So we call it BTS. So moving into creating this business, I kept asking and finishing very similarly that I did with the Honor Foundation, which was asking Navy SEALs if there was a single career transition institute that had been designed for the SEAL community. Unanimously, the answer was no. The same question was asked of VCs and of founders, after the resounding theme of, founders would dedicate all of their success and all of their failures to either great teams, great leaders, great cultures, or they would suffer the consequences of a poor team, poor leadership, and a poor culture. But every success and every failure was still being traced back to this one thing, and that was TLC. So the last question I would ask all founders, all VCs is there a single fund in Silicon Valley that focuses on leadership, that's known to be the fund that as soon as we get inserted into any company, into any deal, that the lessons of timeless lessons of leadership will be taught and coached throughout the duration of our investment? Everyone said unanimously, no, there's not a single fund that focuses on coaching founders and the executive teams at these companies on how to implement great teams, great leaders, and great cultures. And that's what we focus on at Fathom, is the curation of that from the earliest stages possible of a company's beginning.
So I love this, man. I love your story. We got to know you. We got to go deep. God, that question. I don't know when I'm going to ask that question of someone, but I will be making notes on that, putting that as a key question to go deep. Name emotional experience that happened to you before the age of 10 that influenced who you are today. Woo.
I have hundreds of those, of those questions.
Well, I need to know some of those. We're going to have to do another interview on that. I'm
Sure.
not going to totally put you on the spot, but I am going to kind of put you on the spot. So TLC, teams, leadership, and culture.
That's right.
With no preparation, we've got, 26 minutes left. Mm-hmm. And I would almost love for you to do a TED Talk, let's say 18 minutes. So we have time in the last 10 minutes for Q&A from the audience.
Sure.
But I literally want you to do, like, if Ted called you, or let's say I'm Ted, and I'm like, this is your audition for what is TLC? Why does it matter? How can I implement it? And you got 18 minutes.
Sure.
Could you do that? Could you pull that off?
So an on the spot TED Talk, I wouldn't be where I am with this fund and this concept and this philosophy if I'm not able to talk about the true core meaning behind TLC. So I've been obsessed with this for nearly 18 months. It's all I've been working on. And so I can say this.
So I'm going to time you 18 minutes.
I'll probably do it in less than that. But here's what I would pose to the audience in a couple different in a question form. If you were to get the people who are most important to your business in a room, and I mean the most important people, either your co-founders, your immediate partners, and your most important customers. And let's say it's a group of 5 people. And if I were to walk in that room and say, okay, Mr. and or Mrs. Founder, let's go next door. I want to ask you some questions. And we'd sit down and I would say, okay, give me the vision that you have for your company and your organization. And I want you to define it. This might be actually a good time to share what I wanted to share with the group. So let me do that real quick, since I'm giving an ad hoc TED Talk.
Sorry for not prepping you on that one. I didn't know it was going to happen,
right.
but it just happened.
So when I would sit down with that founder and say, tell me what is the vision you have for this organization, you would give me your definition, and I might even tell you what the definition I have is vision, that vision actually is. So I would say, okay, well, vision is defined as the world we envision and we hope to achieve together. And then you would define that. And I would go on, explain to me the mission defined. I would define mission as why we get out of bed every single morning. You would give me that definition. We would talk about things like core values. Tell me the core values of your business. And I would write them down and I would take them according to your definition. What are your guiding principles at this institution? You would talk about the fundamental truths that guide action in the moment. And then I would talk about what's the ethos of this organization, the unspoken spirit that's manifested every day between you and your people. I would ask you to define all these things for me. And then I would say, thank you very much. I would walk outside. I would then ask your partner to come in the room with me as well. And I would ask them all of the 5 same questions that I just asked you. And at the end of the day, I want to know and find out if every single person at your organization will say the same thing. This is a very simple thing to execute on and to manifest, but at the same time, it's very difficult to do in practice. And I can say right now that if I were to ask this question to the entire audience, would everyone in your entire organization be aligned, what I call up, down, and all around? Over 90% of folks, if we were to sit down and do this exercise with you and your teams, they would not be aligned. So you have to ask yourself, if you're not finding the right customers or clients, if you're not attracting the right talent into your organization, ask yourself about your alignment. And the reason why on the left side of the screen I have individual and the right side of the screen I have organization is because you can't have misaligned individuals worked for a misaligned organization, because folks don't feel like they belong at their core. You want to be aligned as both individuals and an organization. This is why the SEAL community is so aligned and effective at their work. This is why the best founders that I interviewed, the ones that showed the most alignment up, down, and all around, were aligned according to these 5 forces. You don't just arrive at great TLC. That's not, you don't just show up and it's there. Great teams, great leaders, and great cultures, they are curated over a long period of time. And then you work into great TLC. It's an end state and a journey all at the same time. So when it comes to teams, leadership, and culture, there's a whole prescription that has to happen around alignment with your internal team and those that matter to you most. And since I wanted to work with the top founders, and I wanted to not compete, but collaborate with the best venture funds in the world, I needed to figure out deeply what they needed from strategic investors. And once I figured out that it was TLC, meaning the founders, they're young, they're working through their experience, they're growing constantly, are the ones that are most open to being coached by great teams, leadership, and culture. And the VC community was desperately looking for people that are proven in building these types of philosophies, great teams, great leaders, and great cultures. So I built a fund that's specifically focused on these things. Everything around us revolves around alignment of vision, mission, core values, guiding principles, and an ethos. And the reason why end on an ethos is, how many times have you gone to an About Us page and left knowing nothing about them? Like, that happens to all of us all the time, right? If, I would challenge everyone on this call, if you were to go to Google and type in Navy SEAL ethos, and you click on that and read through it, you would know exactly who they're trying to bring into their community. The Spartans, the time-old, timeless wisdoms coming from the Spartan community. It took them 2,000 years to write their warrior ethos. 2,000 years. Because again, think of that iceberg image, right? The deeper you go, the longer it takes to curate. So for those folks out there that are talking about great teams, great leaders, and great cultures, you should ask yourself, how aligned is your organization? Will people say, think, act, feel, and communicate the same way about those 5 individual forces up and down the organization? That's how I would summarize teams, leadership, and culture for the audience, Dave.
I love that. And that image was awesome. Guys, this is recorded, so if you didn't get a picture of it, you can hear it in the recording. I've already seen one ask for a couple of your slides. Is there any chance maybe we can get a PDF from you afterwards with what you, like, let's just say someone listened to this, they were inspired, and they want to upgrade themselves as a leader. They want to also meet with their team, and they wanted to have those visuals to help them, whatever you would kind of give them for a self-help. I also wanted to call out, not last Friday, but the Friday before, the Friday mastermind was, what's your ethos? And I had Coach Bill Hart, I had Renee Rodriguez, and I had Michelle Castle. So Coach Bill Hart had put a post on Facebook, and it was funny. He for the ethos, he had a link to the Navy SEAL ethos. And
oh, interesting.
And we had a mastermind call, guys, for an hour. You guys know who Renee Rodriguez is, one of the best teachers of influence, how to have influence. And Michelle Castle is a top producing mortgage professional out of Dallas, Texas, or outside, an hour outside of Dallas. And he had worked with her to get clear on her ethos, and then to create a website that mirrored it. And so, guys, listen to that call. I'm sure if I did a call like that with Joe, by the way, that would be a really fun follow-up to how to get clear on your ethos. But guys, 2 weeks ago, it's in the YouTube channel. I already put a link to it in our Facebook group. If that sounds like something you want to go a little deeper on, we gave you a nugget to that.
Sure. And just to answer your question quickly, this is like, I've seen this happen. I've quantified and codified this process, that when people focus on these things from the earliest stages of their business, any stage of their business is up for a refiring around these things, because individuals have to be clear on what they believe in order to find the right organization. And there's a whole process for each one of these things. So to your point, they focus on how to develop their ethos. There's a whole process on how to develop and see vision. There's a whole process on how to develop and execute and design a mission that includes all teammates and all words, so everyone feels like owners. There's facilitations around each one of these things that will then begin to attract great TLC into your organization. So if anyone wants to learn about this, all you have to do is reach out to me on LinkedIn, and we'll do a deep dive. We'll figure out where you're at. I'm very passionate about this work. I've proven that folks that basically focus on this, you see revenue go up, you see sales go up, you see customers coming on board, and the right customers, the folks that you want to work with and surround yourself with. So it's a beautiful process when folks get aligned like this.
No doubt. And I've always had a passion for technology. I founded a SaaS technology company called Mortgage Coach, and technology is changing the world, but the most powerful force on earth is leadership. And every time I look at an organization that has signed up for Mortgage Coach, they made it available to their loan officers, it was leadership, the implementation of leadership over the course of days, weeks, months, years, that creates that adoption. I have clients that have all the best integrations. They buy it for everybody, but they don't have great adoption. I have clients that don't have great integrations, that have great adoption. Now, there's no doubt integrations plus leadership create the most success. when you
Mm-hmm.
can really make technology easy to use, and you have great leadership, that creates competitive advantage.
That's right.
That creates radical profitability
That's
advantage.
right.
That creates just a growth hockey stick when you bring those things together. So with that said, one of the things that made me so excited about interviewing you, so excited to have you as a leader in our community, is I think you can help elevate the leadership of
Mm.
people in this mortgage coach community. So this interview is a taste of that. We spent the first half hour, guys, telling Joe's story because he's new to the community. But I would love to see Joe on more stages in the mortgage industry. Hopefully next year we'll have more live stages. This year we have more virtual stages. So if you're an executive and you do events, I think you need to hire Joe to do a keynote. If you are a loan officer and you're like, God, this guy's story is amazing, he'd be great for our next sales rally, let your management team know that this is a guy that can help grow leadership. And not just at a 30,000 foot level, while he's got a story that moves you at a 30,000 foot level, he's got a tactical process to do that. So with that, Joe, we got about 15 minutes left, and I do have a few questions from the audience.
Great.
And I still have another question, but if you could, if someone did hire you to give a keynote at a virtual or in-person sales rally, what do you do from stage so that it's actionable? You know, I want to know, I think that's a cool question to ask a keynote speaker. What's your intention and what do you do from stage so that people go from, I watched something, I heard something, to I take action and I implement?
Yeah, sure. So first off, again, these are very simple and practical steps to take to become aligned in first as an individual and then into an organization. But people rarely take the time to do this. What if you mirrored the amount of time that you spent looking at sales reports as you spent looking at self-reports? And that is something that most people don't do. So at the Honor Foundation, the first 6 weeks, we spend doing a deep dive, and we call it you. The whole phase is around you. How often have folks in this audience, have you ever taken 6 weeks combined over aggregated time to learn about you? So I do go deep on stage about some of the activities that you should be doing to do a deep dive into yourself. And this is completely in collaboration with your teammates, your coworkers, your co-founders, your board of directors. I've been doing a lot of those, working inside of board of directors with the CEO to get some alignment there. Leadership trickles down. So we need to make sure that the leadership is aligned from the very top, coming down all the way through the organization for it to be reflected back up into the leadership of our organization. So that's one part that I do on stages and inside of boardrooms and on interactions is we have to get aligned with what we believe to be the true definition, because that's something that's changing. Definitions around these words are changing. There's a reason why 3,300 CHROs last year spent $31 billion on leadership training and coaching for those institutions that were measured. $31 billion was spent on leadership coaching and training last year alone for just 3,000 companies. And these are some of the biggest companies in the world. So think about that. What are you investing into yourself around leadership capacity and definitions and alignment? And then what are you investing in your people? And most importantly, to my loan officer, his perspective, he gives so much that he makes me want to give so much in return. He has ran Ironmans on behalf of our mission. He has sent out donor links every year. He shows up at our events. He's connecting with the graduates. I mean, he's all in. I'm one of the few people that I know that walks around in different social events and talks about my loan officer as someone they need to connect with. It's because I know he's genuine, and he focuses on, we've rarely met for coffee and talked about anything else other than leadership, other than teams, other than culture. We actually never talk about anything to do with the mortgage business at all. And it's remarkable. So I would ask the audience that, you know, sometimes these conversations can be difficult to have as leaders with your own institution. Sometimes we open up more to strangers than we do to people closest to us. I'm leading with a sense of humility, to always be asked to serve companies and organizations, to have these difficult questions, ask difficult questions, and to lead on behalf of an institution, because my number one core value is love. And although some of you may roll your eyes and be like, that's super touchy-feely, well, I can tell you this. The number one core value of every Navy SEAL I met is love. They're leading with love for their country. They're fighting for love of their family. They're fighting for the love of freedom and democracy that we have. It's my core value that I just happen to throw out on the table because I want to lead with love. In every institution that I work with, I only want what's best for you and the institution. And sometimes these conversations are difficult to have. So that is a big part of a presentation that I have too, about very difficult questions that CEOs, leaders have to ask themselves first, because you can't ask an institution questions that you have not asked and answered yourself first. So that's a little bit of it.
I love that. And you're right. It all starts at ourselves. If you're watching this and you're a loan officer, it starts with you. If you watch this and you're a branch manager, it starts with you. A regional leader, a head of production, a CEO, and do we have alignment? What are a couple of the questions? You know, if someone was gonna like sit down after this, schedule, I don't know, let's say they don't have an hour and a half because it's raining loans, they're busy, but
Right.
people were gonna schedule an hour to 45 minutes and ask themselves some questions coming out of today's call. What would be 45 minutes worth of self leadership reflection and questions that they should think about and ask themselves?
So we have to start simple, always. I think that's a big part of this work. So first off, if you were on this call and you don't have your own definition of what this is individual, we can't even talk about your organization until I work with the individual first and figure out, what vision of the world do you see? What do you hope to bring into reality? For me, the vision, the world that I see, what I envision is a world where people feel psychologically safe doing work they love. So if there's ever a Nobel Prize for the most satisfied, psychologically safe people getting jobs in the world, I hope, that's my hope and wish, that one day I'll have billions of people that are walking around happy and feeling psychologically safe doing work they know and love. That's very important. That's the vision that I have. And everything I take is pushing me towards that vision. My mission pushes me towards that. My core values, my principles, and most importantly, my ethos push me to that vision. So I would ask you, first, how do you define vision for yourself? Second, how do you define mission for yourself? What is your mission in the world? Not your organization mission, that's different. Your personal mission in life. What are your personal core values? How do you define those to you so it resonates with you? What are your principles and what's your ethos? That process, putting words to paper, journaling these things out, and having someone ask the right questions at every phase as we go deeper and deeper and deeper in the iceberg. I have dozens of questions lined up at every single phase of that, that help spark creativity and that also help to spark difficult conversations on the inside. All of those definitions are already inside of you. Sometimes it takes a fisherman to go out there and cast the right net and cast the right bait for you to take and then go deep with these types of answers and questions. That would be the very first thing that we do. And if you're on this call and you're watching and you don't have a definition for those 5 things, let alone have answers to those 5 things about you as an individual, this is deep self-work. This is not easy. And then we can move to the organization. But it's a process and it takes time.
I love that, guys. So make a note, schedule a jam session, 45 minutes, hour and a half, work on that. I am going to schedule one of those for myself. I know I can improve what I can do. One thing that I'm working on, guys, I don't know how many of you are following Hunter Markowart. Super elite, incredible leader in the mortgage coach community. He does something called Sunday Thoughts. And what you were telling everybody to do reminded me of something that he recently did, where he, wrote a note to self about where I want to be in 5 years. And it was just like vision casting his life personally and professionally 5 years from now.
Hmm.
And I would, I already had that scheduled. I've been working on that, Hunter. I did read your Sunday thought recently, and I'm working on that. By the way, Hunter is also going to be one of the teachers at our modern mortgage experience that will be launched any day now. Well, it'll be launched later today. So check that out. So guys, we got a little less than 5 minutes. If you haven't already followed Joe on LinkedIn, do that. Make sure you follow him on LinkedIn. If you think he'd make a great speaker at a virtual or in-person sales rally or event, please refer him to your leadership team or hire him. If you're the one that does that, reach out to him. Joe on LinkedIn, or Joe Musselman. There's a link in this chat below. So Joe, I want to close out with your morning routine. When we got on this call, we got on to do a sound check, and just the way you answered the question, I'm like, how was your morning? And you're just like, couldn't have been better. And I'm like, okay, this is a dude that's got a morning routine. And so if you could just close out with everybody and tell us how you start your day.
Yeah, sure. So the morning routine begins at the evening routine. So and this was really started in the Navy. In the Navy, we have something called an evening routine, and then we have AM routine as well. The evening routine is simple. It's preparing for the AM routine. That's it. So the night before, it's all the little things. I make sure all my devices are charged for the next day. I make sure that my desk is clean. I make sure that everything around me and distractions for the next day to walk in is exactly the way that I would hope to have it walk in. Alexa starts playing music at a certain time. The TV pops on at a certain time. I walk into my office and it's active. It's ready to go. I wake up every day at 4:56, 4:56. The reason why I do that is because it's in alignment. I'm obsessed with alignment. And I'm downstairs by 5. I have to listen, learn, and live every morning. So I have things that I listen to from a meditation standpoint. I have things that I learn from every single morning, whether it's a book or some sort of podcast that I've started. And then because of the injury, the back injury, I have to warm up with some really intense hot therapy, heat therapy and stretching with a kind of an ice plunge. And then I'm in the garage by 6 o'clock doing a workout, all in preparation to bring my wife her coffee at 7 o'clock every morning, in addition to my son his bottle at the same time. And all that happens in those kind of 2 hours and some change every single morning. And there's one thing, is I've collected a list of some of the toughest questions that I've ever been asked. And I've mapped them out throughout the day for an entire year, so 300 plus questions. And this morning's question was, what do prosperity and difficulty, each of those, what do they reveal about me? And so this morning it was posing the question about prosperity. And then in the afternoon, I'll start to dig into the second question about the challenges and difficulties and what they've revealed about me. And it's only the truth. So the one way to look at this morning routine as well is I want to be a great example for my son. And I want him to read through this diary of difficult questions and one day get to know his father in ways that I may not have communicated to him because we might go at any time. It's not morbid, it's very real. It's amor fati. If you want to talk about the stoic thinking of amor fati, it's, we have to live for the day. And if I were to go tomorrow, I always tell Hannah that if I were to go tomorrow, just have Jack read my books, because in every book and every cover on this shelf, it has a little note to my son and my hopeful eventual daughter and my children. And that's what I spend my morning doing. It needed to be bigger than me, the morning routine. It's not about me. It needs to be about a legacy for my family and for my children. So that's my morning routine. It's very motivating every day.
That is so inspirational to me. And you need to publish what those questions are. For a guy like you that's interviewed so many SEALs, interviewed so many CEOs, has been so intentional about that. I mean, there's a book in you.
There is.
There's probably 5 books in you. But that right there is like a little nugget. Like, I want those questions. Like,
yeah, they're
post that on. Do a
I'm already
LinkedIn
dreading
article.
tomorrow. I'm already dreading tomorrow's question.
Yeah, do a LinkedIn article. So guys, this has been an amazing hour. Hopefully we'll be able to get Joe back in the mortgage coach community and we'll learn more from him. If you are a manager, guys, this guy would be a great keynote speaker to grow leadership, to grow TLC.
That's right.
So dude,
Thank
teams,
you.
leadership, and community.
Culture.
Culture.
Yeah.
Culture.
Team leadership.
Well,
and
for
culture.
me, it's community. I'm building community.
Right.
Hopefully you got value from this. If you did, give it a like, share it with your mortgage team,
Please.
and connect with Joe. And Joe, dude,
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
you, dude. And thank
That's right,
you
man.
for your service.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for your service to the men and women that have given so much to our country. So you're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate your time and attention.
Take care, everybody.